Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Buffalo SportsCenter. I am Don, and today I'm going to preview this intriguing London matchup between the 3-1 Buffalo Bills and the 2-2 Jacksonville Jaguars. The Bills, who after beating the Dolphins pretty comfortably on Sunday, are rolling into London to face off against Jacksonville, who have rebounded slightly against the Atlanta Falcons also on Sunday morning. Before I get to the preview, though, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Subscribe here on the YouTube. We are closing in pretty quickly on 2,000 subscribers. Be one of the first 2,000 to subscribe to this relatively small channel. And over on our Instagram, we have recently blown up. It's 5,000 followers now for the Instagram, so make sure to get a follow in. All of those links are in the description box down below. But let's start talking about some football, specifically the Buffalo Bills' offense. What an offensive masterclass it was by Josh Allen, Ken Dorsey, and this entire unit on Sunday against the Miami Dolphins. They scored a touchdown on their opening drive and did not look back, scoring 48 on the day, with Josh Allen throwing 21 of 25 for 4 touchdown passes and over 300 yards, specifically 320 yards. This was by far Allen's best game of the season, and he looked light years better than what we saw in Week 1 against the New York Jets. That seems to be a relatively long time ago, to be quite honest, because it's been ever since that game, between that one game versus the 3 games since, Allen has been an MVP candidate. He has thrown and completed for almost 80% of his passes. He's had well over a 100 QBR rating, and he's just been incredible. And you can't say that Allen has been incredible without also mentioning his top and favorite weapon, Stefon Diggs, who on Sunday caught 3 touchdown passes, which, by the way, tied a career high, and he had over 100 yards again in another game this season, and he looks to be maybe potentially going for his career high in terms of yardage. His other favorite weapon, Gabe Davis, had 3 catches for 61 yards and a touchdown pass as well, and what was a step in the right direction for Davis, who had a couple of big plays early on the season, but nothing too consistent in terms of production and targeting. That changed this past weekend. And you know what else changed? James Cook in the receiving game. He had 1 big check down, which he then turned into a lot of yards after catch, eventually totaling him over 48 yards. That is a good sign for a Bills offense that brought on a lot of speed this offseason, but we haven't seen too much of it until Sunday. And what a difference it makes when you have guys like Trent Sherfield, when you have guys like Deontay Hardy getting involved early, often, and they make plays after the catch. That is really good for this offense as they head into October and to the next 3 quarters of the season. Now, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid, while they may not be lighting it up on the stat sheet right now, these 2 tight ends are getting targeted a lot, and they're being really efficient with their short yardage completions. That is very good for Allen. He now knows that he has that safety blanket with both Kincaid and Knox over the middle in the passing game. That's a huge plus. But you know what also is a huge plus? The Jacksonville Jaguars offense, who, after a couple of weeks of not doing very well, specifically going to the red zone 4 times against the Kansas City Chiefs and only coming up with 9 points, or being blown out by the Houston Texans in their own stadium in Duval a couple of weeks ago. The Jaguars have taken baby steps, but they have improved against a pretty decent Atlanta Falcons team. Now, I will say the Falcons have a very good defense, not a good offense, so the Jaguars didn't have to worry about being caught up by Desmond Ridder, but it was good to see them actually take steps forward after a very slow start to the season. Trevor Lawrence went 23 of 30 for 207 yards and had a touchdown throw. And while those stats may not seem all that impressive, it is considering that the Jags this season have had trouble in the short yardage game. But on Sunday, they were only given short yards after their defense forced multiple turnovers on Desmond Ridder. So seeing Trevor Lawrence being efficient, not too flashy, but efficient, that's a good sign for Doug Peterson. Now, Trevor Lawrence has a couple of really good weapons, specifically Calvin Ridley and Christian Kirk. When on Sunday, Kirk rebounded, getting 84 yards on 8 catches, and Calvin Ridley, who is still coming back from that suspension last year, caught 2 passes for 38 yards. Starting tight end Evan Ingram also had 7 catches for 59 yards, and Zay Jones also features in here and there. But Jacksonville, they will still want more, especially from their top running back, Travis Etienne, who only had 55 yards on 20 carries on Sunday. That is important for the Jaguars to become a little more two-dimensional. They want to get Etienne's speed up and running. That is a huge factor, and that could be a huge thing if they really do want to win this division and continue on to the playoffs. But that's going to be tough because the Jags offense will be going up against one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL, in the form of Sean McDermott and the Buffalo Bills. On Sunday, Sean McDermott and the Bills did somebody nobody had figured out how to do yet, and that was stop Tua and the Dolphins. It was rough in the early parts, with the Bills giving up 2 straight opening drive touchdowns on the Dolphins' first 2 possessions, and it was 14-14 going into the middle of the second quarter. But then everything changed. Suddenly, the Bills got a 3-and-out. Then they got another one, and then they forced a fumble on Raheem Mostert, and then they picked off Tua, and they sacked Tua 4 times on Sunday. Greg Rousseau had 2 of them. Daquan Jones, really underrated run stopper, also had another, and Ed Oliver as well got in on the action. And reminder that the Bills are doing all of this without Von Miller, and Von Miller could be back for this game over the weekend against the Jaguars, but that is he's questionable at the time of this recording. Now, Tua had only been sacked once, which makes this even more impressive. And an interesting stat from Sunday, typically Tua was able to throw to his first read 80% of the time, and that was in the first 3 weeks. Where the Bills got success was letting Tua not do that, forcing him to go to his second, his third, sometimes even throw an incompletion, sometimes being forced to take a sack because the coverage is so good. And on Sunday, he only threw to his first read 57% of the time. And do you know what else really changed? Whether or not the Dolphins won or lost. When he was able to get the ball quick, they won. When they didn't against the Bills, the Dolphins lost. And that is the hallmark of this Bills defense. Now, the only bummer for this unit is that Tre'Davious White, our starting cornerback, again, for the second time in 3 years, has suffered a torn ACL and will be done for the year. I just so feel for the guy. I pray for Trey. I really hope he can come back again, but for a quarterback to have 2 torn ACLs on the same knee in 3 years, this could be a death sentence for his career. And that is unfortunate because when healthy, Tre'Davious White is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. It's really sad to talk about it, but for Jacksonville, they'll be extremely happy, not with Tre'Davious White being hurt, but with how their defense was able to play on Sunday. Andre Cisco was really, really good. He's the Jaguars' starting safety. He had an interception. He forced a fumble as well. And you know who else got an interception? Their cornerback, Darius Williams. He was able to pick Desmond Ridder off. And both of these helped set up drives that the Jaguars would eventually score on. Well, although Darius Williams, I believe he scored the pick 6. They did score a pick 6 during the game. Desmond Ridder did not play very good. And when you're talking about the Jags defense, you can't go any further without discussing their Josh Allen, because the Jaguars' Josh Allen is very, very good. Remember a couple years ago where the Jags beat the Bills with Urban Meyer down in Duval? You know who won them that game? It was the Jaguars' Josh Allen sacking and forcing a fumble on the Bills' Josh Allen. If they are going to have any success again this weekend, Josh Allen for the Jaguars will have to be very much the focal point. He will have to be driving that effort if they are to win. Now, they will have Trayvon Walker and Rayshawn Jenkins and Folorunso Fatukasi for the run-stopping position, but it is really about Josh Allen. And this defense, they are really underrated. They're solid, and they're not that bad anymore. They will be taking steps. The Bills will also be looking to take another big step to claiming that #1 seed in the AFC. But with all of that previewing out of the way, here is what our BSC panel plus Jags fan at Duval Mafia, you can find him on Instagram at Duval Mafia. Here's what they are predicting for this Week 5 game across the pond over in London between the Bills and the Jaguars.
And don't allow Allen to himself. Allen on 1st and 10 under heavy pressure. He throws, has his man. It's it. Lead at receiver. Enter Robert Foster. Man coverage. Look at the free safety. Barry Church.